Hello again from Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin, broadcasting from Rigel Studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related politics, and self-defense. Fired Up is on my website, Fired Up with Bob Irwin, as well as the American Guns and Glory Network, YouTube, and numerous other media. If your local internet provider doesn't carry Fired Up, ask him to do just that and call Rigel and we'll take care of it. A new show is posted every Thursday around 5 p.m. Pacific time. The audio feed is rebroadcast for radio listeners on Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. You can check out KELY1230.com for a station in your part of Nevada. If you have questions or comments, send me an email to bob@firedupmail.com. That's bob@firedupmail.com, or leave a message on my office recorder, which is 702-257-1060. Again, that's 702-257-1060. If you don't leave contact information, I can't call you back. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms each week in the United States, rarely, truthfully, or fully covered by mainstream media. I always select a few for each show for my listeners' education. Most are good shootings, some are questionable, some are just plain wrong, but all are educational for those of you that keep a defensive firearm in your home or carry one for self-defense in your vehicle or on the street. Individual incidents are generally adjudicated under local law. The advice given here may not apply in the area where you live. Advice from a local gun knowledgeable defense attorney is always recommended. Stories are often paraphrased for clarity by translation from police jargon, lawyer speak, and regional accents into more standard American English. And incidents are as reported, but the names of the individuals involved are usually deleted. The identification of the cops, the lawyers, and the media are all used. So, here we go. This first story is from WAJC News 6. It's an NBC affiliate, and the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette report. This came out on September 27th, 2020, a few days ago from the time I'm doing this, in Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. An incident started around 2 in the early morning Saturday in the 300 block of Mortimer Avenue. Allegheny County Police said a 28-year-old woman told them her 24-year-old boyfriend had refused to leave her home. The 28-year-old woman was repeatedly assaulted and held against her will for about 3 hours. During the assault, police say that 24-year-old threatened to kill her and began looking for her legally purchased firearm that she kept in the house. The woman was able to find the firearm first and shot her attacker as he came toward her, according to the police. She then left the house and called 911 just after 5:15 in the morning. First responders found the 24-year-old with multiple gunshot wounds and pronounced him dead at the scene. The Allegheny County Medical Examiner's Office identified the man as a local from Turtle Creek. That is a borough in Allegheny County, about 12 miles southeast of Pittsburgh. Commenting on this, clearly a justified self-defense shooting is presented by the surviving victim. The investigation now commences to find corroborating evidence. The crime scene technicians will look over the area to evaluate the blood spatter pattern. The coroner will determine the angles of bullet strikes, and the homicide detectives will interview friends and neighbors looking for information on the relationship between the deceased and the shooter. Once all that information is evaluated by the district attorney, this will be hopefully determined to be a valid self-defense shooting. Myself and the police, everybody, are always concerned when we have a only 2 people in the room or the area or the car or wherever it is, and one's dead. Now the other one tells the story. So this is, to say, I'm not saying this is not a valid shooting and didn't happen just the way the woman says, but they'll need to go through all the evidence and have all these experts look at it before they just walk away and say good shooting. Obviously, the lady has a one-sided view of the incident. So we'll look and see and follow up on this if we get more information. As it's a death case, there probably will be a follow-up in a week or two, which I will carry here if I can find it. Story number 2, Newsweek with journalist Lisa Reynolds and ABC TV 13 report September 9, 2020, in southeast Houston, Texas, a man and his wife had been enjoying a night out at a bar and restaurant around 2 in the morning when a subject in his mid-30s approached them while they were dancing. The mid-30s guy proceeded to grope the wife, who slapped him in return. The couple then decided to leave and make their way home. The mid-30s guy followed the couple into the parking lot and began punching and grabbing the wife. Their 21-year-old son walked out of the restaurant and saw what was happening to his father and stepmother. The 21-year-old grabbed a gun and shot the mid-30s guy. He was taken to a hospital where he later died from his injuries. Sergeant Kenneth Dagenault, boy, I hope I'm saying that right, of Houston Police Department, said he had viewed the video and its contents matched the family's story. Just what I talked about in the previous story. He said, from what I've seen in the video and from what everybody is telling me, yes, he's clearly taking action to protect his dad and mom. In the video, the father looks unconscious after he was punched. The father and son were allowed to leave the scene after being questioned by police. That's always a good sign. Police have announced the case will be referred to a grand jury without charges being attached to it. Comments here. First off, the wife, the guy's mom, was also shot in the leg during the incident, but is expected to make a full recovery after being treated in a local hospital. In making a referral to the grand jury without charges, the prosecutor is showing due diligence to have the grand jury review the case. Grand juries only hear from one side and normally also consider evidence that would be inadmissible at trial. Unlike typical criminal court hearings and trials, grand jury proceedings are closed to the public in most areas and states. They're also different from your typical proceedings in that the accused doesn't have a right to be present. The grand jury hears only from the prosecutor and the witnesses. In most states, a potential defendant does not have a right to testify in front of the grand jury. That little explanation came from a site called lawyers.com, which you will find really interesting when you have a legal question. And now we're going to break from word from some of our friends and associates. I'll be right back. Don't go away. Freestyle Martial Arts, located at Jones and Russell here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-551-9009. That's 702-551-9009. CCS Gunsmithing. Chris Eifelt, the man who does all the NRA help, he's at 2216 South Rainbow Boulevard near Sahara. He can be reached at 702-365-1732. Once again, 702-365-1732. Jerry Creed, a trust attorney. If you have a firearms trust or need one, this is your guy. You can reach Jerry at 702-806-7777. That is 702-806-7777. CCW Maggie is found all over the internet. You can reach her by phone at 702-375-5900. That's 702-375-5900. All sorts of firearms training, ladies only classes. She is the best of the best. Call CCW Maggie. And I am back. A word here on the thing we're all going through and watching, which would be the confirmation of a new Supreme Court justice. The Washington Examiner in D.C., Washington, reports October 29, 2020, almost every Second Amendment advocacy organization applauded President Trump's nomination of Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court, saying the 48-year-old justice will respect the Bill of Rights, including the Second Amendment, and gun owners will relish seeing her on the court. The Second Amendment organizations see an opportunity for gun rights to expand following the confirmation of Barrett after experiencing several disappointing decisions that related to their cause this term. Last June, 5 of the 10 cases the United States Supreme Court rejected cases that asked if the Second Amendment allows government to prohibit people from carrying a firearm outside their home, except for those with good cause or justifiable need. The cases that they rejected were cases that were tried to go to the Supreme Court looking at whether they had a right to carry the gun outside their home. The previous cases have decided you have a right to own a firearm, absolutely, with the exceptions of felons and so forth. But the question that this Supreme Court is going to get very shortly is whether that applies outside the home, or you have to pay money and get a special permit from some local agency or state in order to exercise your rights to carry a gun. Anyway, fired up with Bob Irwin can be added to that list of Second Amendment supporters of Judge Barrett. She has a long history of plain reading of the Second Amendment, including that a well-regulated militia, which the people are not the National Guard. Well-regulated in the wording of the time meant practiced with their equipment, in this case firearms. That's why it includes the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. If people can't own firearms, they can't serve in the people's militia. So hence, those are tied together. The militia is not the National Guard. It is the whole of the people who are possessing their own firearms to bring to the combat and are practiced in the firearms use. Easy case. Hopefully Judge Barrett will become our Supreme Court Justice, and the idiots on the left side won't be able to avoid that. Fourth story, KETK Fox 51, a journalist named Patrick Cunningham, reported September 29, 2020 in Fort Worth, Texas. A Texas grand jury took no action against a man who shot and killed an armed man that murdered 2 people in a Fort Worth area church last December. You may remember this case. It made a lot of headlines when it took place. Jack Wilson, a firearms instructor who has also trained a volunteer security team, fatally shot the attacker back on December 29 in White Settlement. That's the area of town. That's nothing to do with race bias. The attack happened during the service at the West Freeway Church of Christ. After the attacker shot 2 men, Wilson grabbed his gun and fired a single shot that quickly ended the attack. There were roughly 260 people inside the church at the time of the shooting. According to an AP report, the prosecutor with the Tarrant County District Attorney's Office said Monday that Texas law allows a person witnessing someone placing others at risk of serious injury or death can act with deadly force to protect others. Governor Abbott awarded Wilson the Governor's Medal of Courage for his actions, the highest civilian honor in the Lone Star State. Commenting on this, most jurisdictions allow the use of deadly force to defend victims from a life-threatening attack. In this incident, the murder by shotgun fire of 2 people in a church was apparently an unprovoked attack of murder. Defending third parties can be risky if it's not clear who is who. In this incident, saving lives was clearly justified. In many situations out in public, when 2 people are engaged in a serious fight, it is hard to discern who the good guy or who the bad guy is. Perhaps there's no good guy, perhaps there's no bad guy. The solution to that is loud, clear, verbal warnings. Warning shots are not recommended as they're just noise and may be perceived by a combatant as a threat and cause return fire in his own self-defense. Once in a while, a warning shot also hits a bystander. So as in the case I just talked about where the mom got shot in the leg, a bystander was hit, obviously. Anyway, warning shots are not recommended, but I'm the one guy who will never say never if you know clearly where the bullet's going into soft grass or something that will absorb the impact. On rare occasions, a warning shot can be valid, but verbal warnings work a whole lot better. Now, we're going to break for some more information from our friends and associates. I'll be right back one more time. Attorney Donald J. Green, a common guest of mine on Fired Up. He can be reached at 702-409-8239. He specializes in gun case litigation. He is your man. Don Green, 702-409-8239. And Battlefield Vegas, my new kind of home for this show. They're on Circus Drive, directly behind the Circus Hotel and Casino. You can find them there with CCW classes and an amazing place for gun rentals, everything you could possibly imagine. Check out, if you're in town as a tourist, check out battlefieldvegas.com. And I'm back. Fifth story. The Las Vegas Review-Journal, Glenn Pruitt, reported September 28, 2020 in Las Vegas, Nevada. The California Highway Patrol has arrested a suspect wanted in a shooting on the Strip late Sunday that left 1 person critically injured and a hotel casino on lockdown for several hours. Las Vegas Police Lieutenant David Gordon said a man was involved in an altercation with 5 to 10 men around 11 p.m. on the sidewalk in front of the 3500 block of Las Vegas Boulevard South. At some point during the altercation, a male subject produced a handgun and fired a shot, striking the victim in the upper torso, Gordon said. After the shooting, the group of males ran north, then east. The victim was taken to a local hospital in critical but stable condition. Now, the California Highway Patrol said a man wanted in the shooting was one of 2 people taken into custody early Monday following what at first seemed to be a routine traffic stop on Interstate 15. According to that agency, officers from the Barstow area office were on patrol on I-15 at 12:40 a.m. That's just short of 1 in the morning, when they observed a red Hyundai Elantra traveling at a high rate of speed in the southbound lanes. The vehicle's driver was stopped for speeding. The driver and passenger were both 19 years old. Their hometowns were not immediately identified. The officer observed signs and symptoms of alcohol intoxication on the driver, according to the California Highway Patrol. He was arrested on suspicion of driving while impaired. The Hyundai was towed, and the passenger was taken to Baker, California by the tow company. During transport, the Barstow CHP Dispatch Center received information from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department regarding a wanted subject and vehicle from a shooting which had occurred a few hours earlier on the Las Vegas Strip. Troopers contacted Las Vegas police and confirmed the passenger was the subject wanted in that shooting incident. Troopers then tracked him down in Baker and arrested him. The California Highway Patrol said active fugitive warrants were outstanding for both of these 19-year-olds. It was not clear if those warrants were related to the shooting in Las Vegas. Both men were housed at the High Desert Detention Center in Alejandro, California, on Monday morning. This is a great story of a bad guy getting caught. You know, the old adage, you can't outrun a radio, certainly applies here. Heads Up Police work captured two 19-year-olds involved in what appears to me as a gang-related shooting. We can all be sure that video of the original altercation is out there somewhere. These guys don't shoot at each other without lots of people filming it. Violence on Las Vegas streets seems to be increasing. With continued riots over perceived racial issues all over the country, street criminals take advantage of the lower police presence. Metro actually reported aggravated assaults are up 29% to date in their jurisdiction. That doesn't count North Las Vegas and Henderson for Southern Nevada or Boulder City, but it counts just the areas Metro covers. I'm running almost out of time. We're going to run a little bit over doing this, but this story is kind of good. RegisterCitizen.com news report September 9th, 2020 in Thomaston, Connecticut. A 20-year-old local man was arrested this week by Environmental Conservation Police after killing a bear to protect his dog. The mother bear was killed and her two cubs survived. The dog was not hurt. Will Healy, spokesman for the State Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, said the 26-year-old's dog ran toward a bear and her cubs that were foraging in the woods near his Walnut Hill Road property line on Tuesday afternoon. Harley said the dog started barking and the mother bear treed her two cubs. She chased them up a tree where the dog couldn't get them. The bear stood her ground and started making loud noises, believing her cubs were threatened. The 26-year-old, concerned about his dog's safety, retrieved a rifle and shot in the direction of the bear to scare it away. Unfortunately, the shot hit the bear. After being struck, the bear moved about 30 yards to a neighboring property where it collapsed. A neighbor told local police he had seen the bear collapse in his driveway on his home security camera and called the Thomaston Police, who called the Environmental Conservation Police. When econ officers arrived, the bear had died. The shooter was issued a summons for illegal killing of a bear. If convicted, the penalty is $500 fine and or 30 days in jail. He's scheduled to appear in Torrington Superior Court on October 19th. It is illegal to shoot bears in Connecticut. There have been attempts to pass legislation in the General Assembly to allow bear hunting in Litchfield County, which has the highest bear population in the state. In 2019, there were 17 incidents of bears breaking into Connecticut homes. Econ officers reported that the cubs were seen in the woods after the shooting and appear healthy enough to survive. Comments on here. Knowledge of laws and regulations is mandatory when visiting areas that you are not familiar with. I cannot imagine the uproar animal rights environmental groups will put up when this defendant goes to court. They will both be outraged and absolutely correct. One of these, there were several comments on the website that carried this story, and I want to share one with you. I would have done, this guy who wrote into their website, I would have done the same thing for my dog. To be fair, though, if I was going to say I shot to protect my dog, I wouldn't say that I shot in its direction to scare it, but accidentally hit it. You see, officer, I'm just such a good shot that I couldn't even miss on purpose. He put on the internet that he's planning to lie to the cops. If he ever shoots a bear, he's going to lie about what happened. Pretending to lie to the cops is a really bad idea. Announcing it on the internet, no matter what he ever gets arrested for, that comment is going to come up, I'll just lie to the cops. Don't lie to the cops. That's really dumb. And if you're planning to, don't put it on your website for people to see. At that point, we are going to cause an end to this Fired Up show. I'm certainly glad I have you here to listen today. I'm skipping a really great story that I'm going to put on next week, so there's one coming. Don't worry. We're not, with the way things are going nowadays, we're not going to run out of shooting cases and out of legal things that are going on. You can check out my recent shows at firedupwithboberwin.com. It contains several dozen episodes. Please patronize our friends and supporters. Those guys on that list are all having a hard time. They've got their businesses half closed. Most all of them are just having a terrible time, except the lawyers. They have lots of business. I'll be back next Thursday on my website, firedupwithboberwin.com, the American Guns and Glory Network, numerous other websites, television, and radio stations. While watching any media, just click on subscribe and new shows will be sent to your phone or computer automatically. My logo merchandise, hats, shirts, and books, mostly books, are available at Battlefield Vegas, just behind Circus Circus on the Las Vegas Strip. If you are ever in Las Vegas, Battlefield Vegas is a must-see attraction. You can shoot a minigun or any of hundreds of firearms, or even crush a car with an Abrams tank at their outdoor facility. Transportation is provided. You can contact them if you're coming to town at info@battlefieldvegas.com. Thank you for watching Fired Up. I'll see you next week with more stuff. Have a good weekend.